2. Oh, we in this thing. Episode 101, Lyrical Ones. 101 Lyrical Ones. Back to fundamentals, back to basics. With that, I am joined, as ever, Fluent. How are you doing this evening? How are you doing?
I'm real warm, like I'm close to the center of the earth. Trying to say I'm grounded. Like a bowl of molten nickel.
Molten nickel. I hear that.
How you
Definitely.
feeling? How you feeling?
I'm cool. Like I'm so appreciative and grateful. Especially for community supportive people, people like-minded, or people that challenge me to think outside myself, to think deeper, think more intently. I am I was listening to somebody today and they had said some words that hit. And what they said was, right, you have to intend to do good, but you don't have to intend to do bad. And the analogy they made was, you can intend to have a garden, but do you intend to keep a garden, right? You can plant the seeds, but the weeds will come. So will you do what's necessary to keep that garden sustained? Or will you say, I didn't mean for it to go bad, right? Do you say something to somebody, right, and say, oh, I'm sorry you took it that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. Or did you take the time to think about what you was getting ready to say and how it was going to land on them? Along the lines of being swift to listen, being slow to speak. And with that, I am also reflecting on the work that I'm doing currently. The lyrical opposition family right now is building something that I feel like is incredible. Shout out to the last episode, episode 100. I've been working with the director and the, the production companies and the people who are, you know, the integral pieces of what's going on. And it's been profoundly rewarding just to be in their presence. And so, yeah, exercising that restraint, to be compassionate, to have grace, it, the word says to serve grace with salt. I'm gonna say maybe I'll do it with a little slice of fruit. But it's all about the taste buds and being palatable to who you're delivering the message to. And so that's where I'm coming from right now. How now
I
being
like,
to
I
the
like
earth,
that.
being close. Where we at right now on this episode, May 18th, 101 of the Lyrical Ones podcast.
You know, I feel like as people of color, especially as black people, when something happens to us publicly, we feel like it happens to all of us on a whole. And I know for a lot of folks, they are tired right now. They are exhausted, and that's okay. Uh, and for the artists, for the storytellers who are tired, take your time. Take your time processing what's happening in the world. Acknowledge the multitude of feelings, even the dismissals. Just just ride the wave of emotions, and as your pen or your paintbrush or your microphone or your feet or your ballet slippers, your pointed toe shoes, your tap dancing shoes, your karate gi, your jujitsu gi, your swim trunks, whatever your outlet is, just let Let your art speak for you when you are not ready to answer a multitude of questions, when you're not ready to appease and accommodate folks' interest in your perspective. You've been given your perspective for a long time or for a short time. You may be just coming to terms with your voice, but try not to feel pressured or solicited to supply what's on your heart, to narrate someone else's regurgitation of what it's like to be black, so that they can pass on your heartfelt answer as hearsay, so they can pass it on as genuine and authentic. Tell your story when you're ready to tell it, and as much as you can when you're ready to share it with the public, let us know so we could share it from your perspective and not pass it off as our own. Uh, for all the lyrical ones, we would love to share your story. So tap in with us, and if you are exhausted, if you are tired, you can come hang out and be tired with us. Uh, this upcoming visual project under the lyrical opposition stable is diving into a prevalent wound in America and around the world, but specifically to the San Francisco Bay Area. And our hope is that folks would hear and see and feel the stories of those around us who have voices that are sometimes not funded enough to be heard. And so, in our role, we try to lift up those voices. And here, lyrical ones, we in the same mindset, same heart line of providing that that lifting of voices. And sometimes voices don't need to be louder. It's others that need to be more quiet. And we are very much okay with being quiet enough to hear someone speak and share their story. It's Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. We don't get another one of these. We get a few more Wednesdays, but we don't get any more May 18th, 2022. So I'm celebrating. I walked outside around Lake Merritt for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And now everybody telling me, take a Zyrtec, take a Claritin, take this. I'm going to give me a spoonful of raw honey, and I'm going to take a nap. Get these blueberries in me, and I'm going to take a nap. Um, as much as relief sounds like a thing, I'm still very much into the process, the release. And so my body got some stuff to release. Maybe the Zyrtec or the Claritin will help that come out. Maybe it won't. I never tried those things, so I can take my time. I got time today, cuz
Taking your time. right? It's because it's reinforcing those practices we've talked about for over 100 episodes. The boundary, the limitations, the acknowledgement, the awareness. You brought up something right about how it's a reminder for myself. It is a true reminder for myself because I'm so focused on the goal at hand that I get tunnel vision where I start to tune out everything going on in the world. And it happens to us all in different ways and different means where sometimes we so fixated on what's in front of us, we can ignore what's going on beyond us, right? And how those ripples are impacting us. Because as much as I may see the news and I may see what's going on in the world, and I'm hearing of these people who intended to do harm to people who look like me, look like my family, who in my own ignorance could very well be my family. I'm so fixated on what's in front of me in the direct moment, what's in my proximity, that I can feel like in a whole nother universe, in a whole nother dimension. And it's important because as I talk to my friends and I talk to my loved ones and I hear what they're going through, I know that it isn't just what they're going through currently, it's everything else that's going on around us. Right? I'm not saying I'm absolved of it, but I will acknowledge how tired I am of it. And that the goals in front of me, to me, I'm not saying for you, I'm saying for me, are directly correlated to what's going on in the world. Because it's something that I have shared earlier on Twitter. Good intentions and great impact. Right? Those words that I received from what I was watching that uplifted me, that gave me that focus to recalibrate what it is that I'm doing right now in the moment. I know why I'm doing it. And I know that I'm not here to serve your perspective as much as I'm here to serve you. I'm not here to serve your judgment of me. I'm here to repair harm that's taken place so that you or your next of kin can inherit something of value with love, with compassion, with good intentions, with impact that is great. And I know that a lot of people may view my tunnel vision and my level of focus as a sense of detachment, which it could very well be. I could be detached. That could be the the self-defense mechanism that is taking place when trauma occurs because I've become so accustomed to trauma and that my actions are with every intention in my body working towards changing what is currently going on, what is currently harming me, what is currently harming us, right? But it is a reminder to reflect and have those conversations, to be present, to be engaged, to not become too detached where we're not aware and we're not seeing what's going on around us, right? Because it's very easy for people to be forgotten. It's very easy for people to be pushed along, right? It's like, oh yeah, take a pill. Here's a Zyrtec. And not think, well, what do you usually do? So I could be of support in the moment of what you currently need, right? Because I'm with you. Raw honey, locally sourced. If you're fortunate to have some, it's beneficial for you. It's natural, right? Bees, they move the pollen, they help the flowers bloom, the plants grow. And as me being a part of this ecosystem, the honey is sweet for a reason. It was made that way. And what I receive from that honey is even better than how it tastes when I'm thoughtful of the intentions behind it, right? Because oftentimes we shuffled along in this system to be like, take this pill, which you can go, right, and buy who made it, how they make it. I, more than ever, have lost a lot of trust in a lot of different people who I don't know, right? I don't know the CEOs of these companies. I don't know these politicians, right? I know what they tell me, I know what they show me, I know what they have broadcasted, I know what they have marketed to me, I know what they are messaging with intentionality, and I find it harmful because it's not one of trust. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with me believing in without having any real rational evidence that it's worth believing in, right? Now we could get into the weeds about how far we want to go in terms of truth, right? How black and white and binary everything is in the factual sense. But how often is honey brought up? Because I know in my travels, if it ain't Zyrtec, it's Claritin, it's Sudafed, it's Benadryl. But honey, not always the first thing on people's tongues. More so now, it is more frequent. But it goes back to that level of awareness of who are you around and what are they asking? What are they asking of you? Am I expressing what I'm going through or am I asking for your help? Am I sharing with you and giving you insight to my process, or do you care enough to even find out? Because it's applicable to so many different aspects of life when either we're going through something or when others are going through something, to have that level of awareness and care and intentionality behind how are we taking care of ourselves while we going through it, and how are we helping others when they're going through it.
You're right. It's wild because I thought, oh, these folks, they care. These options, right, is really cool. They like, they won't make me sleepy. Yeah, it's like, don't mess with Benadryl because they make you sleepy. Take these other things. I don't know the difference. I know what's not gonna make me sleepy. This honey ain't gonna make me sleepy. This this raw, real honey that will never go bad if stored properly. It's like how many things in the world that are natural and organic won't ever go bad? It's like literally it's not too many things. But if stored properly, stored in glass, it won't lose its flavor or oxidize or change color. It won't crystallize. And that's pretty amazing. Because like there there's never and there's like rarely, right? And then there's like occasionally, and then there's like sometimes. This is like never, not ever. If you store properly, never goes bad, right? And as long as you can, like even in the process of it going bad or crystallizing, that process takes a long time, even if you mess up in the storage. Because I got some honey that I've had for a very, very long time, and I just opened it today. Like solid 4 years, at 5 years maybe, at least 4 years, and it's gonna do what it's supposed to do. It's right on time, um, and right, the reason for the sulfur drugs and the synthetic stuff was like to be fast acting, and I was thinking about getting older and whether it's your patience that increases or your tolerance that increases or your tolerance that decreases for what doesn't serve you and your patience that decreases for things that are not good for you. Do you gain patience for people or patience for life? In your wisdom, do you gain patience in situationally, or do you just have more grace and understanding that things are temporary? It's wild because it could be all of those, it could be none of those, it could be half. And just because you patient don't mean you wise. You could just be aloof. You could just be lackadaisical. You could just be procrastinating and call it patience. But I'm gonna take my time because I have it. I have the luxury of time to ride this thing out and let my body heal itself. And I I know that in their suggestions, folks meant to do good, but it's very transactional. Here, do this. It'll help. You sure? Like the thing about not taking a lot of things over time is I actually don't know what I'm allergic to or not. Um, but I'm not allergic to nature. Lucky me. Um, I'm not allergic to eating whatever in nature. Uh, so we start there. But as I navigate like life and the natural things that humans do, I always have to be mindful that some things, some situations do ripen faster than others, do worsen at a rate that's too fast for me to process and react to. And that's okay. Um, but I can also acknowledge, hey, maybe I can improve in my adaptability, or maybe I can find right the defense mechanism that allows me to process what is happening around me at a pace that's comfortable for me and set aside a time to address my perspective and my reflection. But as I am also tired, to some degree, I know my stance. I I know how I feel about violence. I know how I feel about murder. I know how I feel about every public execution that I've heard of in America. Every public execution involving Americans. I know how I feel about it. Um, so you ain't got to ask me the 2022 version of a public massacre and how I feel about it. You can read my eighth grade paper on it, and I'll probably be saying the same stuff. You know, America, three Ks.
I mean, man. I mean, though, man, it's there's a lot. There's a lot to impact, right? Um, because you bring up a good point. Um, I'm gonna go scientific with it, right? Uh, your brain, your mind, the prefrontal cortex, right? The decision making, the impulsiveness, the factors of how you have self control from those impulses, right? They say around 25, 26 is when it fully develops. Now, prior to me being 26, your boy was stupid. A lot of people thought I was smart, or they thought I was well spoken. How about that? Um, but so much to learn emotionally, so much to learn in relationships, so much to learn in my personal self worth and values, so much to learn in discipline, so much to learn about my presence in the world. I knew what I wanted. I knew how ambitious I was. I knew how eager and how hardworking I was. A lot of those things at the core remain true. Um, but as you experience things and things happen to you, doesn't always happen to everyone, but it happened to me. The things that happened to me, I did not have a grasp on how to process what was going on. I did not have a grasp on just what are the techniques or the practices that will support me in sustaining and growing from the circumstances that I was placed in, from childhood to my teenage years to being a young adult, right? And so you touch on a point that is so crucial about as you as time passes and you age, right? There are choices to be made in how you're receiving what's going on. Are you receiving it as, oh, I know more about what serves me and what doesn't serve me, and I am more capable on acting out on what it is that I need for myself versus what I don't need? The refinement of yourself as you weather time, right? Not different than the water hitting the same rock and then starting to create cracks or splits or rivers or streams or whatever the case may be. As that takes place, the same thing takes place in your own mind. The ripples and waves of your own mind, brain waves, the ripples of your mind, the wrinkles in time, those different things that you experience and that you go through, that you process, that you've gotten through, that you've overcome, right? I can't help but think about one of my former supervisors and how they said they don't need to go through it, they need to go around it. Sometimes that's the case. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. You got to go through it. You got to get through it. You can't always go around it because you may be in an environment that will not allow you to go around. You may already be in it. You may be so deep in it, going back out of it to go around it may not serve you. And a lot of times it is the ones who had the benefit of going around things that will often try and tell people who are in it, all the way in it, deep in it, in the core where that nickel is, that molten nickel. Oh, yeah, go around it. And there's nothing wrong with one or the other. There's nothing wrong with one or the other. There's, it's not to say that there's anything wrong with the other or the other. It's to say, do you have a full grasp on where you are and what's best for you? Because oftentimes the pervasive waves, the pervasive tide may try and tell you what it is. I hope you could read through it because depending on what stories you read and what history you know, it's already revealed itself. Depending on what you look at and what you take the time to discover and explore, whether by yourself or with your community, you'll know exactly what I mean when I say, are you doing the inventory and the assessment of self to identify what you really need in the moment? Or are other people telling you? I love my father, and he told me today, after I said, "You working out?" He's like, "Yeah, I work out every day." I'm like, "Oh, really? What you doing?" And he's like, I walk." I'm like, "Okay, but what else?" Well, I don't feel motivated. I was like, "Are you motivated to breathe? Are you, is your heart motivated to beat? How motivated are they to do the things that you needed to do without question?" Now, it's okay to make a choice and say you're not going to choose to do those things. But it was like this self fulfilling thing. I'm seeking out the reinforcement and confirmation. So later I find someone saying, I didn't intend to get out of shape. Did you intend to work out? Going back to good intentions, great impact. it was so, it's not just me, there are others. And when I see that, right, then I'm gonna lean in that direction. I'm gonna go and walk in that direction. I'm gonna find that. As much as I love the people closest to me, I also have accepted they're not always willing to make those choices. But they know when they engage with me, I'm going to offer it to them. Shout out to the LO family as they've come to find my fondness of disciplined, healthy eating. Ain't nothing wrong with having some boba every once in a while. Just know who ain't the one that ain't gonna have no boba. I'm just saying, right? I'm a militant for veggies, a gangster in the garden. I'm just saying, needy getting picky. I ain't never seen a starving, unless it was a Martian at a penny for a day. Could buy a bag of rice, but the water they will pay. You remember those infomercials? They'd be like, with a penny a day, you can buy a bag of rice for this poor child here. And they would always say, oh man, he looked like starving Marvin. How we refer to people of other countries as aliens. A Martian, a penny for a day, could buy a bag of rice. But the water they will pay. Nestle owns a lot of water. It's such a, they make chocolate. But anyways, the point being, right now, we at a time in life where, shout out to Twitter for giving me this nice little key. People don't want abortions. They want to ban people from having abortions, but they also don't have formula for the babies they're trying to keep. So what kind of world are we really living in? You
I
gotta
mean,
ask yourself this.
we're also not uh, banning one of the oldest industries in the world. We're not making sex work illegal. We're not. We're
Say
not.
what?
We're not banning male ejaculation. I
We're not
mean,
banning Viagra.
nah, we should. I
If
guess
it's if we're
according.
talking about was what the argument that people make is what's God's will is God's way. I mean, how much is the tax dollars that circulate go to funding people that can go buy that pill?
Uh, yeah, I'm just waiting for Bernie Sanders to say it.
So, it's yeah. I, I digress.
That happens. But it's as you learn yourself and then find the people that you can share that authentic version of you with. It's it's very rewarding because we are not meant to be single units, but meant to live in community, right? Like that unit, unity, unity, and as we uh, as we find that community um, within our lives, I think we can look back at the themes within our lives leading up to those communities to find out, to look at and find out, acknowledge what we needed growing up to understand the roles that we want to have within community. The the pain and the purpose that comes from acknowledging what was the injustice in my life, right? It's like if I grew up impoverished, right? Food security matters. If I grew up with family that passed away too young, right? Then there's certain things as far as food scarcity and food deserts, and wellness that matter. If if I saw family members murdered, uh, violence is going to be something that that emotionally activates me in some way. Um, if I come from a family of a lot of screaming and cursing and abuse, when I look at the peace that was taken from my home, the lack of peace because of socioeconomic situations that contributed to drug use, that contributed to conflict, that contributed to rage, that contributed to abuse. If I look at the source of the problem, then I can understand why the source can be a focal point as I get older. And I say, the community that I choose, the community that I choose, I want to be healthy in this way. And big ups to Cineo for sharing with the lyrical opposition family something that's important to both of us. Um, yeah, I think everybody in LO knows what it's like to be on the other side of me telling them what to do um, from an exercise standpoint. And then some folks know what it's like to exercise with me. And, I just really appreciate Kanye's line on the corner. I wish I could give you this feeling. I just kind of operate from that standpoint. It's like, you show up to me whatever space you in, and I'm gonna transmorph that, transfigure that. We go use this alchemy to change things. That's right.
Alchemy, equivalent exchange. That's the first rule, right? In order to get, right, you must give. Equivalent exchange. Giving something of equal value to retain or be given something of equal value. What you put in is what you'll get out, which you intend, right? Intend, the intention, right? You can refine
Yeah,
that intention, right? Um, to have great impact, to have good impact, if you're willing to learn. And it's yeah, it's about sharing, it's about reinforcing, it's about being immersed in a community that, you know, is healing, is repairing, that's restoring. We find a way to reduce the things that ail us to increase the things that give us wellness. And honey, right? It's honey. It's not a spoonful of sugar, it's honey. And if you care enough to find out what it can do for you, metaphorically, literally, figuratively, and all of the different LYs, it's up to you. It's up to you to make that choice, to take the time to find out, to figure out, because again, things are going to happen. The seasons will come, the seasons will go, the sun will shine, the flowers will bloom, the pollen will be amongst us all. Just as much as the hurt, the harmed will harm others. Hurt people hurt people. That's not to excuse them, but if we don't explore our other options of how to heal the people who've been harmed, If we don't take the time to find the honey, well, as there are professions that are as old as time itself, there are also habits, behaviors that are old as time itself as well. And we've seen what works and we know what doesn't work. And so just got to explore. It's a choice at the end of the day. If you have the ability to see it as a choice, because again, we do acknowledge not everyone can see the choice, not everyone can accept the choice. And that's not to belittle or dismiss you or invalidate you. If you're here with us and you're listening to us, we see you, we honor you, we work to serve you. We are on your behalf in trying to make it so that you can one day see that there's a choice, that there is an opportunity provided to you. Because if we're able to speak it upon you, life, love, blessings, peace, and we work towards that, then one day that will be an option for you. One day that will be accessible to you. One day that'll be something you have within your grasp. And for the ones that know that there is a choice to be made, that it starts today, that it starts in this moment, right? You can intend to have a garden, but if one, you don't plant the seed, well, it ain't going to happen. The weeds will come. That's for another day. Some pray for a good harvest. Some pray to be able to wake up so they can tend to the harvest. It's a difference in mindset, but it's a choice every step of the way. If you are in it and it doesn't serve you, get through it, move away from it, find what does. It's scary. But when you learn that it isn't a fear about life and death, and it's more about the circumstances placed upon you in the world that you live in that wants you to be afraid, power is generated from that acknowledgement, from that awareness, from the ability to just know, okay, it's not a bear, it's not a shark, it's not something creeping in the dark, something else outside of me that I can rid myself of. I mean, it's honey. Bees make it. You don't have to kill bees to get honey. You don't have to harm and destroy in order to get something that's nourishing for you, at least in this context, right? But again, it is that alchemic, right? The alchemy, understanding the elements, understanding the world around you. Not everyone can clap their hands. Sometimes they have to draw, write it out to be able to change, to transfer, to transform, to transmute what it is that they see into something else. Equivalent exchange. Entropy, no. But energy, yes. Right? Cut the tree down, burn the tree, turn to ash, put the ash back in the dirt, nourishes the earth. I can plant another seed, we can have another tree. If I choose to see it as that, if I choose to take the steps every step of the way. But again, it's a choice. Bees, honey, Halo 2. I love bees.
Maya Angelou wrote, "Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay." Inviting one means an intention to engage and embrace and hold on to. And if you can do that and invite hope, then you can find courage. Maya Angelou also wrote, "Courage is fear that has said its prayers." And when you let what is beyond your control be, then you have more energy, more awareness, more focus on what is under your control. And you may find there's a lot of things that are under your control. And as you find your focus, you can look inside for your capacity, your skill set, your intention, your passion, your compassion. Like the interesting thing about stress is that it can turn your normal responses into opposites. Stress can. And I had to learn that. I'm learning it all the time actually. But in a space in my life where I am talking and communicating and repeating myself and being patient throughout the day with everyone I interact with. When stress comes and I'm low energy, right, my reaction is flipped. Sorry about that, y'all. Lyrical ones. That's what happens when you live. But my reactions to stress are flipped, and I become a different person in relationships than I normally am when I'm high energy and de-stressed. So in my acknowledgement of what is stressing me, in my acknowledgement of what is changing my behavior, I have to also acknowledge that I'm different and this is a side of me that I must acknowledge and ask for grace and forgiveness in, that I might be a better a better person in community, and not just a unit of one. Courage is not the absence of fear, right? It is like bravery, action in the midst of fear. Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay.
Absolutely. Affluent. I love you and appreciate you for saying that. Strength, faith, courage. Stay fearless, community. Affluent. Any final thoughts or words for the people of this episode 101 of Lyrical Ones?
Uh, I like the music of James Brown. I like the music of Heat Wave. I like the music of LTD and Cool in the Gang, the OJ's, Tower of Power, Foxy, Chic, and all these folks was black people being the soundtrack to generations. And I say generations because the music they made echoed all the way to the future. Excuse me. The music they made echoed all the way into your music. The music they made echoed into my art. The music they made echoes 100 years.
Okay, but first you'll have to unlock your device.
Not Google. Ain't nobody talking to you. When I say echoes to the future, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, the future
Echoes
responded.
all the time, all the time. But I say that to say, being your authentic self will echo into the future. There's never been anyone like you. City, I love you too. Uh, all my lyrical ones that are listening, all of us, all of we. Abe, I appreciate and I love you. Uh, our authentic self, right, echoes 100 years, forward and backward. We are the echoes, but the echo is not identical to the original sound. The echo's been changed. The echo's been changed by the energy around it, by those who hear it. As you continue to be your authentic self, echo forward 101. One, ones, 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 ones. 101, 100 in the can, back at it again. 22, 2022.